Welcome to the Homeschool Mom Chat. I hope you have a few minutes. You can sit and listen or interact. I am going to be having conversation with Jamelin. Jamelin is a gardener, a homeschool mom of five, a self-care advocate, can I say, guru. I am excited to have a conversation with her. If you've got any questions, you're welcome to jump into the comments section and just interact. I'm going to pretend I'm having a cup of coffee, but since this is actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I am not able to drink coffee after the lunch hour, I'm just going to have a conversation with my tea, with Jamelin, and with you if you're here. So Jamelin, you're welcome to join me. If we haven't met already, introduce myself. I'm Teresa. I'm the certified life coach and homeschool mentor found here at the Homeschool Life account. And for those that do know me, you'll notice that I have shifted my name from Homeschool Mama Self-Care, the name of the book I wrote, and also my podcast name, to Homeschool Life Coach here on Instagram so people know what it is I do. And you're always welcome to book a no obligation conversation with me. If there's any discussion points that you see as relevant in your life and you'd like to explore deeper, you're welcome to do that. Just send me a message. But let's see if I can find Jamelin behind the scenes. Hey,
We did it.
yeah, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
I'd love to hear all about you. I saw in your stories today that you are a gardener. I am also a gardener, always have been.
Oh, okay. We'll see. We could probably just spend our whole time talking about gardening.
Yeah, or my French, I call them my garden tips. So instead of French manicure and having the little white tips, I get brown tips.
Yes, I understand that fully. Yes. Yeah, gardening is one of my hobbies.
Yeah,
Um,
I do.
yeah, for sure. And so kind of out there every day in the spring and summer.
Yeah. Where are you located?
I'm in Ohio.
Ohio? Yeah, I'm in British Columbia and it's been raining like crazy for the last couple months.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. We've had really good weather so far.
nice.
Like I have a rain barrel, and that's kind of how I gauge it. I'm like, if my rain
Yeah,
barrel's full and I can just water from that, I'm like, we're doing pretty good.
yeah,
So,
that is pretty good. I'm so good. It feels almost tropical here.
oh,
Like it's really green but it's just cold enough where my tomatoes aren't holding on overnight, and so I keep replanting a few more out, and then I keep doing it again. And they keep burnt or dying off.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's rough. It's like a learning process, but sometimes you can know everything, and it is what it
exactly.
is.
A
Yeah.
seasonal thing. Yeah. And the very first garden I grew was the same year that my second daughter was born. And when I bought my first pack of zucchini seeds, I planted all 19 of them. And I had a lot of zucchini that summer.
That's a good story.
So you have five kids. What ages are your kids? I think I saw you have a 17-year-old boy.
I do well. Yeah, he's 16, and then I have a 14-year-old. I have an 8-year-old, and then my oldest two are our two daughters through adoption, and they are 24 and 22.
Beautiful.
I always have to think, when people ask you and you have like a certain number of kids, you're just like, oh, whoa, hold on.
Right. Yeah, no, I actually only this year do I remember my age because I turned 50, and it's an easy thing to remember, but I guarantee you when I move from 50 to 60 between those years, I will forget again exactly how old I am.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, I have three that I'm homeschooling right now. And so we're going to be kind of doing 11th, ninth, and third grade. So it's not, I've been through home because I did not homeschool my oldest two.
Yeah.
So it was new territory, high school, and
Yeah.
in some, even though you have had one child go through it, um, it's not cookie cutter for all your kids. So
Nope.
you're having to figure out, a little bit But I feel a little more confident, I think, because the first year you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to mess something up. Well, that's my personality anyway. So,
So how
yeah.
many years have you been homeschooling?
Over
Yeah.
11. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got like the decade thing down.
Yeah.
That sounds.
Beautiful. I actually saw your picture of your son. You were talking about facial hair. We won't go into details just in case he actually sees this, which he probably won't. But anyway, I am also there with my kiddo, and I'm like, whoa, I feel like he's still 8, even though he can drive the car.
Oh, there's those years where things just take off.
Yeah,
Literally transforming into, well, they just look different. And,
yeah,
catches you off guard. You just look at them across the room and it's like, who are you? Who,
yeah. It
you
was
know?
wild. Yeah. When I look back at the photos, I'm like, oh, I wish I could be back there. Maybe that's why I'm staying in this space, partly. But I just absolutely loved my homeschool years, even though y'all should know there were days or seasons where I definitely did not love them. And they were hard, and I didn't know how to manage things or to approach things. But when I look at the big scope of it, I'm like, it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful way to build memories and spend time learning together.
That's good to hear from some. I think you're not currently homeschooling, right? I
No,
think.
I'm not. I'm done as of last year.
Yes.
That, yeah, next level surreal.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's good because when you're in the thick of it, it is hard. You're making have memories, but it's different when you're on the other side.
Yes.
You can look back and just reflect, I think, in a different.
It was very saturated. That's what I remember. Is it was so saturated. I was always trying to do everything right. I was not sure of myself, so I overcompensated by doing more and then trying to make everything perfect, being the drill sergeant for the homeschool. And that, and actually I learned a ton and it was a lot of fun and we had a lot of great memories. We did a lot of traveling. And then when we settled here, we built a homestead on raw land, and I always wanted to do that. We planned it with the kids, of course. So we did that, and then we settled. And then our oldest moved into high school those years, and then it just flew. That's when it felt like, whoa, everything shifted. They went to, from junior high to high school, and then the first one graduated, and then it just, it just flew.
And so I still have, my third grader. And
Yeah,
so elementary years feel like they're just kind of going along slowly. So I'm still kind of grateful that I get to have my foot in that world.
yeah,
Kind of have my feet in different worlds. I've got the two, their lunch, they're not living at home anymore.
yeah,
So it's adult parenting, it's a little bit different.
yeah.
And then students, and then I still get to have my feet in like the little elementary world, where we
Yeah.
do like the lap books and the picture books and those things that are so lovely, Oh, I love those.
So your youngest must be so advantaged because you're way more relaxed. You have way more clarity on how to do this. You know what actually works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think I've been more willing to experiment with
Yeah.
her. I saw, I feel like it was one of your posts that I saw, and it was talking about the book Project Based Homeschooling.
Yeah.
And I set up years ago, but I remember reading it and feeling like this isn't for me. It feels too juicy.
Loosey goosey. Yeah.
I don't like that. Like
Yeah.
I need something more. And I remembered that book, seeing that, and I'm going to get that again and just look at it a second time. And I finally feel like that's something that I can pick up and try to embrace a little bit more with her. I mean, yeah, I've been a little bit more relaxed because you're right. Uh, when you were saying, some of those things, I felt like similarities with you because I still struggle, right? Like, am I doing all the right things?
Yeah.
It's part of my personality. I want it to be, I don't want them to leave and have, things that aren't done. And it's funny because that's, in some ways, when that's your personality, your go-to, your default, you're going to kind of constantly battle that, I think. And
Yeah.
it doesn't go away, even though you have more knowledge. So, like with her, I still have to check myself, but I know how to do that a little bit
Do you
now.
know what I see now in hindsight? Because I can look back and I can go, okay, what was really me, or what was homeschooling. What I mean to say is that those challenges, like the things that say, or the part of us that says, is this good enough, or am I doing this all right, or whatever words we use, those really are not about homeschooling. That's a bigger picture thing. We could be in corporate, or we could be doing literally anything, and we'd have that a running script in our heads, and we just translate it into the homeschool realm. And because we're off the beaten path and everyone's not doing what we're doing, then we have a lot of people that are also saying, are you sure you should be doing this? And I don't know, is this going to be good? Because it's not what everyone's doing, although there are a lot of people doing it now, but there isn't everyone. And I think those scripts are
Yeah,
there with or without homeschooling.
true. It's true because even like with my, blogging and things like that, like I can tend towards not getting things accomplished because is it good? Is it perfect? Is it whatever? So yeah, you're right. I still struggle with that in work or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes. But I always think the youngest has the greatest advantage because, the older ones, they just trained us or else taught us so many interesting lessons that we're like, yeah, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be, yeah. So you're blogging, or you're writing about homeschooling. What do you write about?
Yes, yeah, it's a homeschool blog. So Holistic Homeschool Mom is my website. And yeah, so homeschooling, just blogging about, yeah, just the typical like homeschool things, reviewing some resources and
Mm,
making
yeah.
kind of like what I'm using or where I'm at is just like, well, let's just put it on here. I'm going to share it.
Yeah.
Um, but also, you probably know too, like I like to share about self care as well.
Yes.
Um, that's a big part of my journey, and I was reflecting, getting ready to talk to you today, and yeah, just reflecting on why did I even start blogging anyway, and reasons. Kind of being able to put your voice out there
Yeah.
and moms what you know, and your ideas and opinions and things like that, and then um, yeah, just having a way like a creative outlet, all the things that you do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And
It was really a journey. In the beginning, I was also writing as I was homeschooling. I mean, I was always writing, but I started a blog, and I remember this like serious trepidation. I cannot believe I just put out the day's events to the entire world and everyone I know. And it was just a volunteer experience with my kids at the library. And I'm not really sure what I was worried about, but just putting my voice to this is what I think, it was really nerve wracking. And then very quickly I realized no one was reading it. So I was fine. But it's been a journey.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I still struggle with that
Yeah.
sometimes. I struggle to, post
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
Because being just very personal and, holding those things close. And yeah, that feeling of like I'm sharing it with
Yeah.
everybody, but also understand like in that risk of sharing things, that's connecting with others, other
Yes.
that's
100%.
yeah, that vulnerability being
I
there.
have so experienced that. Like I've experienced the alternative too, nasty comments about homeschooling or, whatever. But I think I mostly don't care. Like I want to say I don't care at all, but maybe I will now that I said that. But I don't really care, and I know that there's some people that are quick to share their comments because they're just critical in nature and just not very happy. So then I'm like, well, why would I listen to that voice? Or maybe there's certain people that that you care about, that you want them to like what you're doing, but they don't. And then you honestly just have to accept and own the fact they don't. And why don't they? I don't know. They don't. So then what are you going to do about that criticism? Are you going to then be a little less of yourself just to accommodate the people around you? And I know that because I've been doing this long enough in the public space, which feels weird, I won't lie, because if you know me, I'm actually not. really super extroverted. I'm ambivert really. But I feel more comfortable for that exact reason that you said. The more that I am being authentic in front of people, the more it's inviting other people to be authentic. And that I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people that want that. So it's easier to not care about the negative voices because there's so many positive voices.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, I know they say that as you get older, it gets a little bit easier to care a little. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole perimenopausal energy, just bring it. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I've been feeling a little bit of that sometimes. At my days where I'm like, oh
Okay, how are you homeschooling with perimenopause? You got to give us all the deets. Like, what do you do to do it? Because in my experience, I was just having a conversation with a mom in interview for the podcast, and she's sharing her journey about postpartum and pregnancy, and it's so interesting, and I know that a lot of people can relate to that, but there's not nearly as many of us on this age spectrum in the homeschool space, the perimenopause menopause space. And in my experience, it is a little, like, it's different, but it's hairier in that it's not got a baby at the end. It's got I don't know, whatever it's got at the end. I haven't been there yet, but I do know it's pretty unpredictable, and the emotions and the hormones and all that is just like, whoa, it can be pretty surprising.
yeah.
So how are you homeschooling while doing that?
It's like it's funny as far as physical, symptoms go. I would have like, a little bit of the hot flashes, not anything really terrible, but my kids are like, "What is happening?" Because mom's always cold, and it's funny because I might be sitting there, doing math with, algebra or something, helping with algebra, which I'm not like excited about.
Yeah,
I'm
me
just
too.
on, and I'm just like fanning myself, and I think I've learned to say, I just announce it. I'm like, I'm having a hot
Yeah.
flash. I feel really now. I need a break. I just have to stop. I can't because you literally just feel like I don't want to say mad, but you're just like
Yeah, mad. I have that experience. So I'll just go with yes, mad. All of a sudden you're like, just intense.
so and then it goes away. I'm like, okay, deep breath. I can re-engage. So I think just letting them know, like a little bit of like what is happening, right? So that's been helpful. I feel like I've learned to give myself a little bit more grace. Like I've never been a great sleeper,
Yeah.
and so it's hard for me to know like how much of the symptoms are playing into my sleep. But those days when you get up and you're just tired,
Yeah.
you're like, I did not sleep good. I was hot all night long or whatever, um, and just still learning, but getting better, being more gracious with myself. Of like,
Yeah.
and it's not about you guys. It's that I just feel like I don't have good energy
Yeah.
today. You know, um, I guess learning to kind of accept that it's not the things that you're doing, it's me. And I mean, those lessons I've been learning, those were some of the hardest ones to swallow, because it does point back to you and your issues. But,
Yep.
that's maturity and
Yep.
that's
Thank
learning.
you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that vulnerably, because really there needs to be more discussion about perimenopause, PMS, pregnancy, honestly, even sex, about all of that and the homeschool mom life. Because in some way, for varying reasons, each of them has a unique challenge. And we'll just say PMS, for instance, blocking off time for your period, or at least if it's predictable at all, knowing when the week is that you are more likely to be on the kids like a solid drill sergeant homeschool mom, or I don't know how it manifests for everybody, but when you're more intense or whatever it is for you, if you know that, because you know it's going to happen once a month, probably not everybody, but mostly, then if you know that, then block it off.
Yeah,
Whereas for, I don't know what your experience is for perimenopause, but it is not quite so block offable. It's rather unpredictable.
yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. I don't know. I think, and some of it, uh, in some ways, I think about like our culture, especially like so American culture,
Yep.
and but yeah, there's just so much of this like you just drive, drive,
Yeah.
drive. You use everything. It doesn't matter how you feel. You just go for it.
Yeah.
And I started to realize like how embedded that
Yes.
is in my mindset. So when you say like just maybe you could schedule like a week off, or maybe you could do a lighter schedule, and it's like, oh no, I'm pushing through. You know, like that.
Oh,
This
especially that week. The irony for me is that that's the week that I used to be more like, get out of my way. We're going to do this. Like, it's happening at all costs. You will learn this math thing. Always a good atmosphere for learning.
like, oh, they could probably just tell by the look on your face, right? What's happening. They can read well, and that's the funny thing. You know, we think that we're hiding stuff sometimes, and it's like, oh no.
No. No. Yeah. That's funny. I don't think we can clock it or put a rhythm or a plan to it with perimenopause the same way as we can with PMS. But I was just having a chat with a mom, like I shared for a podcast interview, and it was about her postpartum plan. And, that whole phase is really tricky because depending on the baby, the first 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 months, whatever it is, can be like completely consuming. All you're asking is, where are those mesh panties? Do we have any more of those ugly mesh panties? Or, sanitary napkins? Or can someone make me sandwiches for 3 a.m. every morning? Or it's just completely consuming. You sitting on a sofa with your baby. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I had my youngest daughter, what they would consider, me to be a little bit older for having a baby. I think bariatric pregnancy, which
Yeah.
is,
Interesting name. Yep.
and just not recovering very quickly. It's just like night and day because there's a gap. There's a 6-year gap actually between her and my youngest.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, I am not bouncing back. And I think I like sat in the recliner for at least a good
Yeah.
month afterward, um, which just seems strange. But I would almost say that postpartum homeschooling is just hard. I feel like that's the hard. Yeah, and I I look back and recognize that I did not give myself very much grace during that period.
Needs to do. Yeah.
People just weren't talking about it. Maybe they're still not doing it very well. I don't know. I guess I'm not really reading about that right now, but it just feels like moms need to know that there's grace for them to just take
Yeah.
the time. And yeah, if it's just doing a lot of read alouds for months, and that's after you've taken a break, not feeling pressure to do things. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's both a sweet time and a really intense time.
yeah, yeah. I struggled with that, putting pressure on myself
Hmm.
to jump back in there and oh, the other two are going to be behind, and comparing myself to others. So, well, all these other moms are just wearing their babies and they do all the things still. Why can't I do that? And so, some of those just, not good thoughts of, well, comparing never gets you in the right space, but
Yeah.
feeling like everybody else can do it. I need to do it too. Instead of
Yeah.
recognizing what do I need as an individual, regardless of what anybody else needs. Yeah.
Uh, you know, there were so many things that I can look back now I wish I had done differently. But the one thing I know is that when I'm talking with moms, their experience presently is saturated, is what I call it, because it's just a lot. It's like a dry sponge originally when you first go into mothering. You're like, okay, I'm a dry sponge. You're so for it. You're so ready for everything. You're so excited. Or at least that was me. And then by the time, I don't know, you're in the thick of homeschooling a bunch of kids or a few kids, you're like, whoa, I just need to dry out in the sun for a bit. But there's no time for that. And I actually wouldn't look back now and say I wish I'd done it differently. only because I'm constantly having conversations around this discussion. And I realized it was never in the cards to have done it differently. You do it the way you do it. It was meant to be the learning thing that you were meant to learn. And reality is, it's a very beautiful moment and or a season of your mothering life, but it's also really saturated. And there are definitely hard parts of it, if even just the constant noise and conversation, even though some of them are very sweet but some of them are not. So all of it is also hard and good and beautiful and painful and difficult and tiring all at the same time.
Yeah, I like the way you say that, saturated. That's such a great,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. And I like that drying out in the sun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just gonna have. I feel like I need to just reflect and chew on that. That's a good way to look at it and to think about that.
I see you chewing on a wet sponge.
But yeah, out in the garden.
Yeah, in the garden. So what is your focus online? So you're primarily writing on self-care for homeschool moms, and do you offer any services or any things around that?
I do not right now. Just I just try to post here and there, right between the little like moments of my life when I feel like I can actually sit down and like
Yes.
about a blog article, and gather my thoughts, and the kids are asking for me.
Yeah.
Like, so I do. I just try to put out, articles here and there that I hope at some point will end in the hands of whatever mom needs to hear that. And just also trying to, I can share a little. I
Yeah.
can on Facebook,
Yeah.
not saying like here's what you need to be doing, but also just kind of saying like here I am doing the thing that I talk about myself doing all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Beautiful. Yeah.
your hobbies and things like that. So, maybe I just don't feel like I have the.
Do you know what I was going to say is that I felt like it was a life preserver for me to write. And so I started writing a blog. I don't know why, because everybody was doing it. That's probably why. But I started writing a blog pretty soon when I began homeschooling. And then it was like my way of just processing everything that was going on. And then I realized after almost like six, seven, 800 posts that I didn't know what keywords were, and I should have put a few keywords in there. I kid you not. And but I also saw themes that I was consistently writing to, and I decided I'm going to write a homeschool book out of the blue. And then I looked at the themes, and there were really four. I think one was self-directed education, another was about traveling, homeschooling, because we did a lot, and then self-care, and there had to be something else. There was four for sure. And then I realized that the one that really had the biggest impact on me was this wellness angle. And I'm not talking about like French tips, because that literally never happens, but I am meaning like mindset shifts and approaches to thinking, how you're experiencing things, the unhelpful schooled mindsets that we have, or just frankly the unhelpful mental mindsets that we have for relationships or addressing our big emotions or things like that. And then I just wrote a book out of the blue one summer, as we homeschool moms do. But you know what? Like, if you ever want to turn that into a business, I actually help people build their businesses. And specifically, my focus, my intention is toward homeschool moms who coach, and kind of pioneering that. I think, I'm not sure that exists anywhere, but for women that want to coach other women, that's my goal. And this whole thing is a lot of fun. I think homeschooling was a lot of fun, but this one is also a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a passion there that you can kind of move into because I mean, homeschooling is a passion and it's fun. But there has to be something
Yeah.
else, I guess that's done. What better way to pursue that than sharing with other moms? So
Yeah. No, I'm with you. When I first started, when I first began, or when I first mothered, I didn't imagine I'd want to do something else. That wasn't really anything on my radar. I had never thought about doing anything else other than being a mom. Like I had ideas, but what I really wanted is to be a mom. But who knew you were actually working yourself out of a job? Um, you and I know I knew because other people did indeed do that, but I just didn't imagine that it would really happen. It was so saturated. And then it did. And I'm glad I've moved in the direction I have because it is very satisfying and also a kind of a nice transition reality check. You really do move out of homeschooling, you move out of mothering. It does happen eventually.
Yeah, that's such an intriguing like conversation, I think, to have. I have not had that a lot yet. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's because in some circles I'm the oldest mother, or I just haven't found someone that's really in that space a lot that I've been able to sit down. That's a homeschool mom. So,
Mhm.
but I feel like there's a little bit of a difference there. So that's actually I would enjoy, talking with other moms about what does it look like. What do you do? I think Katie Martin from Simple Homeschool. I see some of her posts. She kind of just graduated her last
Yeah.
child. Talked a lot about that. So and then you and so there's a few like here and there, ladies that are talking about that more and more. That you know, just getting their wisdom because I don't want to be the mom who's like when they're all done I'm like, well, now what do I do with myself? I have no I don't think that I will. Like you, I've been blogging and doing some other things. It's tough now. I think there'll always be something. There is a sense of loss, I guess.
Yes, it's a grief. Yeah.
So it feels far away right now.
Yeah, I know. And then all of a sudden, there it is. I had that conversation actually about transitioning into the next phase with a lady named Pat Fenner, who's a graduated homeschool mom of 5 kids. I actually just wrote an email. I offer this journal prompts for working homeschool moms, and it's in the email that I sent. It was all about how you transition from the homeschool years into the next level. And she found it really hard. She went into a true depression. And she was my reminder in the last few years as I've been moving into a different phase that I need to plan for that. I need to expect that that is going to happen. And it really does happen faster than you think, unless, of course, you have another baby, because there's always that. You just have another baby.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Tired. I like that. I like the idea of planning for that and thinking forward. It's hard to do. It's hard to do because you're just so like I don't know. For me, I feel like sometimes, and I don't know if this happens to you, but you feel like you're behind everybody else, right? Like everybody else is posting what curriculum they've already bought, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't. We need to wrap up the end of this year. It's like a ritual. Like I print out little certificates for them, and then we have these little like fruit parfait type things in
Nice.
the garden. And this this end of school year, it's been so just different. And I'm like,
Yeah.
God, school's over, and I haven't even done our little. I honestly, I don't know that they care, but for me, like
I
I want.
know, I do know. I know that feeling because it felt like, when I look in hindsight, I go, I think I was ready to stop. And I remember a mom way back when telling me that she put her youngest in school because everybody else was going. And I thought, such a cop out. That's too bad. That's too bad. But fast forward, and I've heard many, many stories, and I have my own where I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes people are ready to stop, and it's not in children's favor in general to continue to do something if you're really not in it. That wasn't actually my full story. There's more to why my son decided not to continue homeschooling, but in a nutshell, it wasn't about just me deciding not to do it anymore, but I definitely felt this waning energy over the last 2, 3 years before I did stop, partly because all of a sudden all I have is one kid at home. And then also because the post pandemic kind of energy. And my husband's a medical physician. So it was a really intense 3 years for us. Um, but anyways, for various reasons, we decided to transition. But it was me waning. By July or August, I was like, huh, maybe I should think about the next year. So you're not alone.
Yeah, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. I mean, I think I'm, looking forward to picking out the curriculum and figuring things out. But you're right. I don't know. Life is just busy,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. I need to sit and think on that a little bit more because I feel sometimes a little bit of that like waning. This year was one of my years where I was just like, ooh, this year was a little bit harder, Um, and I was like, is it seasonal? Is it because it's winter? Blah, is it because I'm trying to do too much? Where can I, take some things out of
Yeah.
the day? So, but I'm glad that I felt that way because then I can kind of plan for that going into this year.
Yeah.
What are you really doing? And I have two schoolers, and where do they need me? And is there maybe more time for me to work on blogging and like that?
Yeah. There
Yeah.
is. It will happen. I guarantee you.
Okay.
It'll happen.
Okay.
It slowly moves into that phase. Yeah. I mean, I say I was really looking because I'm doing this intentionally coaching homeschool moms. So I'm always looking for the right word that feels like truest to that experience. And at the end of the typical homeschool year, even if you're schooling year round, you hear so much about the end of the homeschool year that you start thinking, what should we do next year? And so I talk about reimagining your homeschool. Like, how do you want to see it differently? Not just the curriculum, not just the routines, not just what does the child need, but also how was I engaging in my frustration or overwhelmed moments last year? Do I want to do it differently? How can I reimagine that? Or I don't know. I've actually got a list of 8 different things you can reimagine, but I think it's a really great time for us to think again, like, what do I want to do differently next year?
Yeah, I like that. Um, something to ponder
Yeah.
this year. And, like I said, with my youngest daughter, just even thinking about allowing her to have a little bit more of her own choice in what she wants to study. Just realizing how much that I would always just plan everything down, but maybe this summer I might just sit with her and say, what are the topics that you want to learn about? Of course, we're going to do math, of course, we're reading, but let's just get a big list.
Yeah.
And for the first time, actually, we've used 5 in a row for a couple of years.
I love
And,
it.
and I actually was brave enough to say, so what do you think you want to do for this year? Do you
Well
think
done.
you want to do something
Yeah.
else? And it was interesting, like, maybe we could try something else. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
not really, but it's because it's just kind of easier for me just to default to, because now I need to say, okay, what do you think maybe it could look like?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that just wasn't even on my radar,
Yeah.
when I was with my boys. Although they're in high school, so I wonder if you have anything to speak to that. So they're in high school, how did that look for your high school students?
I'd say it's easier. And the reason I say it's easier is because I came from the place of trying to lean into child inspired learning. I didn't call it that then, but I was always trying to include, how do I include you in this? Because I got a hold of John Holt's book early on. So it really helped to release me from a lot of schooled kind of mindsets. I could see that my kids weren't really learning in the traditional way, but the more often that actually one of them did like the traditional way, but the more that I moved toward that and released control over certain things, by the time the high school years came, that's when I recognized, and they made it very clear, each of them differently, but they all made it clear that they were ready to take on something for themselves and do it differently when they were older. So in some ways I found it a lot easier, not harder. If I was starting at the phase of high school and saying, how do I give myself or give my kids more agency or autonomy in their world, I think it would have been harder for me to let go. But I'm sure you know what I know because you got launched kids. They will make it clear to you when you're overstepping your space or they don't like something. And even though sometimes I think we still, if something's really important, we can still assert something and say, no, but I'm your parent. I think that's fair. I don't think that's an unrealistic thing to say, obviously, but it's not obvious to everybody. That's why I said it. I do think that's important, and yet we have to honor the fact that they're about to leave our homes and they will have 100% agency. So maybe they should actually give some or have some opportunity to experiment with that kind of agency or autonomy before they leave our home. So that's really an underlying principle. I don't think I spoke specifically to, homeschooling high school in that, but did that kind of speak to what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, clearly I've not spent a whole lot of time yet thinking about next year.
Yeah.
But I do like always kind of assessing where I'm at. And so even with them, I feel like high school gets so regimented, right? Like credits for this and that. Um, but to give them space to say, so what do you think history could look like for you? How could you get of history? And basing it more on their interests, of course. I feel like I kind of do that, but I'm getting confident to do it even more, you
Yeah.
know, going more off script. And you're right, they do have ideas about things, and they'll let you know if we
Yes.
ask. If we ask.
Oh, really? Because I have the ones that will tell you even if they don't get asked. That was my experience.
Yeah, yes, personality does play into that.
Yes, it does.
My son who's going into his freshman year,
Huh.
I mean, he lets all day long, that this math curriculum isn't working. He hates,
Exactly.
hey, so clearly we need to look for something else, next year.
Yes.
And then my oldest son, he's a lot more just like, whatever you think, mom,
Mm. Yeah.
whatever you hand me, I'm going to do it. He may not like it, but he'll do it anyway. So I actually have to, I feel like, be even a little bit more curious with him.
Yes.
Like this. And it's kind of like, I don't know. No, I really want to know. And you have to push a little more.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
do the most worst, boring class painfully to because he's, the firstborn boy. And anyway, so you kind of given me things to think about for the summer and get them involved, even more.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I kind of overwhelmed or how do you say, like over invited my kids stay in the garden. What I mean is I invited them into the garden for so many years and I enjoyed doing science in the garden, but they eventually tired of it. So they would not hang out in the garden with me. And I got to have the garden all by myself and it became my quiet space, which I do not have any problems with
Yeah.
after this many. So I hope you have a really beautiful summer in the garden with your kids. And thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me for coffee.
Hey, it was so nice to talk to you. I love
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's stay in contact. And if anybody is looking to find your blog, where do they find you?
it. It's holisticHomeschoolMom.com.
Beautiful. Well, lovely to meet you, Jamelin.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
see you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.